About a quarter of business leaders surveyed by NTUC LearningHub say job scopes accurately reflect how agentic AI is involved in daily work. This type of tech can act independently, which can be used for data analysis and customer support. Most business leaders are confident in supervising such AI agents, but highlighted the need to have human oversight in making decisions. Ivy Chok with more.
At this Bukit Timah domestic helper agency, 2 staff manually handle paperwork every day, and this means sieving through hundreds of documents. But this all changed last month when the firm adopted new AI tech. What used to take 15 minutes to upload biodata is now done in under a minute.
That's a tremendous amount of time saved. The man-hour today can be redistributed. The staff are able to focus on counseling, training the helpers, engaging with employers, the more human job which the AI would not be able to replace.
As more workplaces integrate agentic AI, the tech is no longer just a tool. It's reshaping jobs. According to the NTUC LearningHub report, this has created gaps between adoption and reality, with firms trying to play catch-up in redesigning job roles.
Companies need to shift from adopting AI to redesigning work and work processes around it. This really means that updating job scopes and roles at the onset, building skills in critical thinking, judgment, oversight, and AI governance, and embedding AI into workflows in a structured way and not as an afterthought as well.
Companies are also struggling to retain workers and keep processes up to date amid a push to adopt agentic AI. Among the 200 business leaders surveyed this April, the lack of skills for AI-augmented roles emerged as a top concern. Other challenges include limited access to upskilling avenues and difficulty in measuring work performance. NTUC LearningHub says such metrics have to include fairness and risk with AI deployment.
The approach should probably be more balanced, how that is associated with business outcomes, the quality in terms of the decision as well, and the accuracy of the decision that was made through using the AI, and the kind of risk and governance that are in place.
But business leaders stress that human oversight remains essential.
The human skill is still very, very important. AI is here to enhance it. So which tool, how are we going to use it, whether is this helping or is it generating revenue, that decision has to come from the human brain.
NTUC LearningHub says it will continue to help employers build capabilities in scaling AI. This includes expanding training in governance and workflow redesign.
And for more on how companies can bridge the gap between technology and talent, we speak to Alvin Aloysius Goh, who's Executive Director of Singapore Human Resources Institute, and Edward Chin, who is Chief AI Officer at NCS, which is an AI-led tech services company. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alvin, let's start with you. We're seeing very rapid AI adoption, especially with agentic AI. But why do job descriptions largely look the same? And do you think that companies are updating them fast enough?
Yeah, great question. I think on that front, job descriptions, JDs are all very static. But the job role that we are facing on a day-to-day basis is a very dynamic one. Similarly, like the business world is such a dynamic one. So updating job description is one of the aspects. But going forward, I do expect to see more organizations and HR leaders as well updating their job descriptions to include AI skill sets that are needed for the jobs of not for yesterday, but more importantly for tomorrow as well.
And for employers who are not very convinced, Alvin, why is it important for these AI responsibilities to be written into the job roles?
I think whether we like it or not, as what I always say, AI is here to stay and grow, right? And we are at a very inflection point where whether we want to use it or we don't want to use it. And the early data that what we are seeing is that companies who have adopted AI early has actually enjoyed better productivity indicators, right? Based on the ROI or investments or what they put in, vis-a-vis the outcomes that what they have achieved itself. So I think it's important that organizations, business leaders adopt AI. And I think that's the push that we really want to see here as well, amongst organizations, SMEs, everything. Yeah.
And speaking about that push, Edward, I want to bring you into this conversation. You're Chief AI Officer, so you're quite well placed to answer this question. How has your organization been defining new roles to keep pace with the evolution of AI technology?
Yeah, it's been a very exciting journey. I think my organization, NCS, has been quite a bit on the forefront. So, for example, it started with the creation of my role. Actually, in the past 45 years history, actually, this is the first time we created a role called the Chief AI Officer.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that actually there'll be many more of such roles to be created. Like with every job, I think technology transformation really, we all will do the job before we know how to call the role. So I think that will be a trend. And another interesting example that my organization has done at a more junior level is to create a role called the AI native builders. Something interesting about this is that we do not really focus too much on formal qualifications. We also don't really look at very formal kind of job description, but instead we look for individuals who are very motivated, who can learn fast, who can work well with others, and quickly iterate fast and ship production-grade code for AI platforms and products.
And given these needs, when we look at the actual job description itself, when it reads things like working with AI, do you think this is too general? Does it also then automatically include, for those applying, the need to work with agentic AI? Is that a given?
Yes, it's a given. I think within the last 1 year, that is when you see agentic AI really maturing, especially in the area of code development. Previously, when you were just using agentic AI and in very infant state, you typically would only be able to use it for probably up to a few minutes, and then you have to intervene, you have a human to go and check out the code and do some intervention. Whereas now you're talking about hours where the coding agents can just do code on its own. So I think to your question on what it means, I think really we need to learn how to work very differently. For example, to learn how to delegate better. We are very used to really like coding, typing code, etc. But now you really need to think of how to delegate so that you can have more agents work for you. At the same time, you become a supervisor yourself.
And Alvin, given that a lot of the work will be delegated, as Edward says, to AI, right? So how do we then measure performance or evaluate performance in employees when much of the work is done by AI? Right. Does that have to shift as well?
No, I think on a principle perspective, we have been evaluating performance on an outcome perspective, right? I think that's the genesis, and I think that's the principle that we need to look at, outcomes. And we use AI in a way that it amplifies our work in a very effective and efficient manner. And leaders will then need to evaluate outcomes, how we have used it, how we have created guardrails. But one point about the human in the loop, I would rather say that we should be human in the lead, because problem identification, right? Using AI to solve the right problem is very important. Therefore, you get the real outcomes. Yeah. If you don't solve the right problems, at the end of the day, no matter how expensive an AI tool you're going to use, it will not create value for the organization at all.
Yeah, and Edward, I also have to ask then, what kind of roles then would be most impacted by AI? We know that new roles are being created, like your role, for example, but what existing roles will be most affected?
I think those roles that are most impacted will be those that, beyond just AI improving the productivity, but also AI expanding the frontier of what's possible. One example is actually cybersecurity. I think recently what we have observed is with frontier AI models, cyber vulnerabilities that previously, zero-day vulnerabilities that would have taken months, if not years, to discover or to develop, are now being uncovered by these frontier AI models. As a result, actually, the thinking of cybersecurity profession has to be fundamentally reviewed. But to me, actually, that is very exciting. Because that means also, while there's a lot more demands, but there's a lot more potential for someone coming into this profession to really deep dive and learn more using AI.
And to tap into that potential, Alvin, do you think companies are doing enough to actively redesign jobs to catch on to AI in that sense?
I think companies, the early adopters, have already done and redesigned a lot of the roles. I think a good majority of our companies here, especially some of the SMEs, and perhaps medium-sized local enterprises have yet to really adopt it fully. They are fully aware, but the adoption, I think, is still at the infancy stage. Right? The early adopters like NCS, some of the big boys out there, some of the multinationals, have already a agentic AI system that is, I would say, maturing at this point of time. But according as what I would say, it's still evolving, right? So I think the level of maturity will still keep on moving, right? That's what possible.
And Edward, I wonder what you think a good benchmark would be, right? For example, if we look at between the next 3 to 5 years, can we expect most workers to already be using agentic AI most of the time?
I'm an AI optimist, so I'll definitely say yes. In fact, I will push it further. I hope that AI will become ambient, just like how spreadsheets is now in finance, GPS in driving, for example. You don't think about using those technology. Just like in 5 years' time, I hope we don't think about using AI per se.
It's just a part of your life.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you both of you, Elvin and Edward, for coming in today and sharing your thoughts with us. I've been chatting with Elvin Aloysius Goh from the Singapore Human Resources Institute and also Edward Chen from tech services company NCS.